Hey. Oh, oh. So yes, you got me. I'm running a little bit late for Pride Month celebrations, but it should be a year-round thing. So I'm gonna come at you 28 days late, 2 days to go. Wait, 30 days, so September, April, June. 2 days to go to celebrate women loving women recommendations. I only have 4 because I'm a slow reader, but we're just gonna shoot through them one by one. Let's go. Okay. The first one isn't often referred to as a women-loving book, but that's how I read it. It's The Girls by Emma Cline. So The Girls is kind of a retelling or speculative fiction about the Charles Manson murders cult. For those of you who don't know, Charles Manson was a cult leader who pretty much dictated a bunch of teenage girls and coerced them into committing a lot of crimes for him. The book is a really interesting perspective because you kind of explore female rage, and we follow the main character who is kind of living on the outskirts of this cult. So she's not directly involved, but she's kind of witnessing the other girls and how they react to the cult leader, and it's very fascinating. The women loving women element, I feel like, isn't talked about very often. I think a lot of people might find it to be slightly tropey maybe, because I know that there is the issue of that trope of lesbianism being related to mental illness, but I don't think that's what this story was at all. I found her sexuality to be very authentic. I thought that she always seemed happiest when she was with girls and not with men. Give it a look. My next recommendation is something a little different. Kissing the Witch by Emma Donoghue. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I would recommend you do as well because the narrator is really beautiful and it kind of reads like having an old bedtime story read to you or an old poem, because all of the stories kind of meld together. So if there is a side character in one story, they're probably going to be the main character of the next story. The premise is it's kind of like feminist gay retellings of old, what are they called? Brothers Grimm classic fairy tales, which is cool because I can't handle the darkness of the Grimm fairy tales, but that's a good feeling if you're wanting to scratch that itch. My next recommendation is, I think, the first book I read this year, and it kind of made sure that the rest of the year would be a huge disappointment because this was awesome. Actually, no, I started my year on a disappointment because I read Rebel of the Sands and it put me in this huge reading slump. And I still wanted to read something with a mysterious stranger and a magic system and jewels and pretty stuff, and this fit the bill. The Midnight Lie by Marie Rutowski. The premise is there is a class system, a very strict class system, and you pretty much, the lower class, get severely punished for going outside of that class system. People in the lower class aren't allowed to wear colours or eat sweets, and the most common form of punishment is you have to give blood as a teeth. So it has a really interesting magic system and a really cute romance, but I won't tell you anything about that. It's best to just go in guns blazing, not expecting anything, just read it. My final recommendation is a fan favorite. You know it, but I'm gonna recommend it anyway. Oh yes. This book dismantled my soul piece by piece and then threaded it back together. My life is no longer measured in years or houses I live in or how long it took me to finish my degree. It is now pre-Evelyn Hugo and post-Evelyn Hugo. And I'm still trying to pick up all the pieces that this book left my heart in. For those of you who don't know, it is a story about an old Hollywood actress, Evelyn Hugo, during the Hollywood Golden Era. And she was always kind of mysterious in the media and quite private. And she has given a journalist the opportunity to interview her, and so we follow her life across the time span of her 7 marriages. That's all you need to know. Just pick it up, read it. The audiobook's a good option too, because like you get multiple perspectives and different voice actors to match those perspectives. It's just so good. Do I have any other recommendations? I'm currently reading The Deep by Rivers Solomon. It's also speculative fiction about what would have happened if slave women thrown overboard had have kind of evolved into mermaid-esque creatures. I'll link the video down below that recommended that book to me, because it's a really good video for LGBT plus recommendations. I'll also link down below a mini little listicle that I wrote for 10 LGBT plus audiobook recommendations and some music recommendations and TV recommendations too. It's all happening here. Okay, well that's it for me. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.